It's been another amazing year so far for Palantir, hitting all-time highs, up 70% in 2025 alone. Joining us here first on CNBC is Palantir CEO Alex Karp, alongside one of Palantir's new clients, Teletracking co-CEO Chris Johnson. Gentlemen, good morning. It's good to have you.
Delighted to be here.
So Alex, the Teletracking deal, almost every day we see a new announcement like this from you. When it comes to enterprise, the commercial business has been on fire, 70% growth in the last quarter from the previous year. Can you sustain these kind of levels?
Well, we have the best partners. I think people recognize we have a very differentiated, very powerful set of products that make AI in the enterprise actually valuable, as defined by unit economics shift and revenue goes up. We basically want to bring our numbers, which are like 71% growth in U.S. commercial and a rule of 83 to our partners. And we go around and we're famously a company that's more quiet in the streets, hot in the sheets. We're doing a lot of performance and, doing our thing. And we get, we get great partners and we build them. But basically, we're in the business of taking Ontology Foundry and transforming businesses so that they have economics that look much more like ours. And what we're really doing is saying to the world, look, all the value in Silicon Valley used to be in venture. It's now all in growth. Look at this partnership, look at the quality of the partner, and see how we roll.
Well, so Chris, you are the latest partner. Tell us a little bit. So your healthcare operations for hospitals and systems, what exactly do you do, and how do you work with a company like Palantir to accelerate that kind of growth?
Sure. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for having us. We're announcing the partnership today, and just as background, Teletracking was founded in 1991. We're a 30-plus year company that's focused on healthcare operations. And we work with over 150 health systems across the world, 8 out of the 10 largest in the United States. But I think to put it in context for you, think of it similar to air traffic control at an airport that is helping manage flights coming in and out and the traffic and things of that nature. Teletracking does the same for patients, staff, and equipment and hospital systems. And so with that 35 years of deep domain expertise, now coupled with the work that we're doing in the partnership with Palantir, leveraging Foundry and AIP, we believe that we can put that into motion even quicker.
I mean, healthcare systems,
higher revenue, better unit economics. AI is kind of a weird revolution. It's just not working for most people, but the people for whom it is working are transforming their business. The easiest, and in my view, on the battlefield and on the battlefield of commercial enterprise, way to do this is to platform on top of Ontology, platform on top of Foundry, bring your domain expertise to the market, change your unit economics, and reap the benefits for your investors. And this, by the way, is a very different space. You used to get these kind of unit economics by randomly picking a smart person from Stanford, probably a person at Stanford that was at Palantir. Now you do it by investing in scale. We are essentially using our platform to invest in scale and invest with the best people. And that's where the real returns are. That's where all the capital is going to go. You're going to see PE firms shifting. You're going to see investors shifting. You're going to see the smartest of the smart money has already shifted, even though when they're trying to raise money for their startups, they don't exactly tell you that. But that's what's actually going on. And we're at the center of that universe, which is why we're constantly under attack, mostly by player haters who are technically illiterate, but also by people who don't want the West to win. And we're just here trying to find the best partners in America and just crush it. And that's what we're doing.
A lot of questions. Why do you say that AI is not working for most? What do you mean?
Because basically, I mean, in the enterprise context, to make enterprise work, you need something like an Ontology. Do you need the Ontology to manage the LLMs? And if you aren't doing that, you're getting some kind of like chatbot experience, which is certainly is an addendum to high school or college.
Explain what Ontology is for viewers.
Well, to take deep domain knowledge and then scale it inside your enterprise. You're going to have to use, first of all, you're going to have the enterprise completely structured in a way that actually works. So you're going to have to replace the seams that are in your enterprise. That's exactly where the AI fails. Then you're going to need a way of orchestrating the large language models. And by the way, orchestrating it so that each tidbit of the large language model is in the right place at the right time, and it's doing it in a way that's secure. So internal, not external tooling. You need a way that you keep your domain knowledge. You know, the Palantir platform, despite what you might read at the New York Times, is actually the most secure, the hardest platform in the world to manipulate and change. Of course, any technology can be abused. But if you wanted to abuse the technology, if you wanted to use the deep state to unlawfully surveil people, the last platform on the world you would pick is Palantir because of the granular way we segment and put together and the security models and the access control models that are in Foundry natively, not a built-on addendum. And by the way, that focus on civil liberties is making us really rich, which drives the woke, pagan, religious practicing, Neanderthal thinking people who ignore technology absolutely nuts on the right and the left while we're building value. By the way, I asked for permission before I went nuts from our wonderful, slightly conservative and highly substantive partner, and he gave me permission to embarrass him. He didn't realize it'd be this embarrassing.
I think it comes with the territory.
These are my views, not his.
Okay, so Alex, let's get into that. New York Times has an article. Here's the headline. Trump taps Palantir to compile data on Americans. They paint a pretty Orwellian picture of what you and the Trump administration are doing.
I was walking over here. I picked a random engineer, and I said, by the way, we have a contest. Find all the technically absolutely erroneous things in this article in 90 seconds. And I picked a random engineer. I was like, well, how many do you think you could do in 90 seconds? He's like, well, 15, 20. But leaving aside the technical, look, it's probably
wrong.
hard
Is that
for
what you're
them,
saying?
I'm sure. Well, it's not. Well, first of all, on the tech side, it is so ridiculous. I read the New York Times. It's literally like I'm a dyslexic. They might as well be hiring me to do a spelling bee. So, maybe they just have friends who are tech bros, but they can't hire on a meritocratic basis. I don't know. So that's up to them. We have a contest. Find all the errors in 90 seconds. I think somebody will find 50 or 60. But the more important thing is we are not surveilling Americans. We are not building a database to surveil them. And if you wanted to do that, the last platform in the world you would buy is Palantir. And don't believe me, go look, spend 10 minutes and look at the architecture of our product. 10 minutes. And then see how ridiculous that is. By the way, writing ridiculous shit in a highly charged environment is dangerous. And the New York Times should take responsibility for the danger they're putting out in the world. There really are people who believe that crap.
Well,
they believe that.
One thing that's true, though, is that you have increased your contracts with the government, and that has accelerated under the Trump administration.
Of course, but by the way, even there, you know, a mathematically somewhat moderately literate person would say, okay, well, they're increasing the government by 45%. That's pretty baller. How are they increasing in the U.S. commercial? 71%. Are we building a database to conspire against our own people in the U.S. commercial context with no sales force? So we're winning. Yeah, great. You know what? Tell everybody we're winning. We are winning. And by the way, we have a rule of 83 why we do it. Basically means we don't have or have basically inept sales force, and we're winning. And we know why we're winning? Because the product is the best in the world. And you know what the Trump administration is actually doing? Every other government in the world is doing, because everyone wants to beat China, who's not China, is buy the best product. What is the best product? They're not buying our product because they like me or they like my speeches. Honestly, he's wondering why he has to buy the product from me too. They buy it because I'm going to make your company really, really financially strong, more secure, more efficient, increase the revenues. Why does the U.S. government buy the product? First of all, it's a product. It's not a waste of time service BS thing that can be abused. By the way, we lost so much revenue in the last 20 years because people wanted to buy things that could be abused. It's really hard to abuse Palantir. You could do services. Who knows what a services company is doing with your data? Or you could do what the New York Times does or consumer internet does. You could resell the data and productize your users. By the way, there's a high correlation between productizing your users and selling them woke pagan BS.
It's a good point. What are you doing at the IRS?
You can't get that with Palantir, but you can't.
The IRS was one example.
Yeah, you know, we have so many contracts in the U.S. government. I mean, I'll tell you, without the specifics, I can tell you exactly what we're doing in the IRS. We're going to use the most secure platform in the world to replace inept software with cheaper, better software that is more efficient. That's what we're doing. I assume at the IRS, we have so many contracts. I know that's what we're doing here. That's what we're doing with 71% of growth. You know what we're doing in the DOD? We're scaring the bejeebers, I'm trying not to use the F word, out of our adversaries by making them scared at night. And you know how we're doing it? By installing productized software that runs algorithms against data that's been lawfully collected. And you can't unlawfully use it in our platform, which is one of the main reasons people buy it and keep it.
All right, Chris, we know you haven't been rendered mute, so I'm going to come to you and ask you, healthcare. Listen, we're having a huge debate right now in this country, obviously, about spending and about deficits that are unsustainable. Healthcare seems to be at the center of so much of our spending. We spend more than any country, yet we don't get outcomes that seem anywhere near what we should. How do you see that being transformed, and can it be, given some of the larger efforts you're making here in terms of when you talk about the AI revolution in healthcare?
Yeah, absolutely, and this is the reason that we're partnering with Palantir. Teletrack has been in this for 3 decades, focused on the operations. When you talk about the macroeconomic issues, we're at 20% and growing in GDP spend as part of healthcare. We're ranked 48th or 49th, depending on the study you look at, in efficiency in that healthcare. So our mission and our shared mission in this is to bend the cost curve of healthcare down while improving access and quality of care. And we're doing that through improving the operations, small transactions, small things. Everyone's experienced the wait times in healthcare. Everyone's experienced the unknowns in healthcare. And so we have more capability that we have built over the years that it's now going to be augmented with our partnership using Foundry and AIP and the expertise that Palantir brings, coupled with our deep domain knowledge. We can drive the cost of healthcare down.
Medicaid, Medicare spending, obviously a key portion of our spending overall. I mean, is it your overall belief that over time, given AI and what it can accomplish, that we can meaningfully reduce spending while actually improving outcomes?
Absolutely, 100%. And I think what we've seen microeconomic versions of this across hospitals. Roughly half, 45% of hospitals cannot make money inside the Medicare and Medicaid margins, but some do. The ones that do have focused on the operations side of their business, just like in every other industry. Efficiency and productivity improves outcomes.
Alex, while we're on sort of bigger picture issues, the big beautiful bill, I wanted to ask you about this, has a provision that bans states and localities from regulating AI for a decade. Is that a good idea?
Look, I mean, I'm busy in building what I believe will be the largest and is, I think, already maybe the most important software business in the world. And so I'm not really reading bills. My general bias on AI is it is dangerous. There are positive and negative consequences, and either we win or China will win. So a lot of stuff that would be really important to look at, we're in an arms race. And by the way, I don't even mean an arms race, just the obvious, like our AI on the battlefield is better than theirs, or the world order will change, which I think almost everyone intuitively understands. It's also how do we have the strongest economy in the world? And again, when you're building a business, you really have to build where you're strong. So like we focus on software, we focus on technology. As alluding to the early part of the conversation, when you veer from that, you end up with weird non-performant products like the New York Times article. But if you stick to where we have strength, which is essentially business acumen, business knowledge, domain-specific ways of doing things, and then using software to hypercharge the efficiencies. Now, why would we do that? Well, as a matter of theory, you would think, well, we'll do it just because we can, but we also do it because we're the best in the world at it. There is no economy in the world with this kind of corporate leadership, which is willing to pivot, which understands technologies, which is willing to look at new things, but also has deep domain expertise. Our allies in the West, in Europe, are going to have to learn from us. Our allies in the Middle East are learning quicker from us. Our adversaries are trying to learn from us, and you can't look at this in a vacuum. One of the biggest mistakes that people are making is, people become economically literate. So you wouldn't write an article saying you could just borrow money endlessly, but you could write an article that's just as stupid on technology, and tech gets a say here. And America has every advantage in this field, like every advantage. Every company you'd want to buy from, not just us, others, great companies, every company you'd want to sell to, every company that's selling to customers, that's flexible and adopt. We get the best people. You have to focus on that, and anything slowing us down is just essentially a transfer of IP to our adversaries.
But you just called it dangerous.
And we will pay a huge price for that. Huh?
So how do we mitigate? You just called it dangerous. So how do we mitigate the risk, catastrophic risk, while also beating China?
No, sorry. Anything powerful is dangerous, right? So it's like you can't say AI is just going to be unmitigated good or bad. Well, I'll tell you what, we have honest discussions about tracking where it's going, how close are we to AGI, what is working, who are the people doing it. You know, I welcome a discussion about who is in charge of these technologies. Great. You know, you have people on the left and increasingly on the right who just think I'm a shaman person gathering money and data. Magically, we just show up. It just happens. It just happens. Yeah, it just happens. Yeah, just magically. You know, and we've got to fight against that. We've got to educate our populace. We've got to focus on meritocracy. We've got to allow a culture where the best products can win and they stay profitable. And we have to fight for that. And by the way, everyone who's on the sidelines and thinks you can get away with not fighting for these things, with honest discussions, is going to find out the other side, which is Luddite, regressive, pagan. They will win. And that's what we have to do. And then quantify the results.
Yeah, it's David. You know, it's funny when I hear you talk about hypercharged efficiency, I do wonder, and I'm not sure I know your full view on, we're just starting to grapple with the societal implications of what that means for employment. I don't know where you come down on this, but, you know, it's something that I think we all are just trying to think about.
Those of us in tech cannot have a tin ear to what is this going to mean for the average person. And the kind of AI we're doing, which is in enterprises, can, if we work very, very hard at it, be net accretive to the workforce in America. And by the way, one of the most important things we can help do is aptitude testing.
But why do you believe that's the case, Alex? Why do you believe it's going to be additive to the workforce? I just want to understand the underlying.
No, I didn't say it will be. No, sorry.
Okay.
You have to be careful about this. You can't say it will be. It can be. We have to will it to be.
How?
And we have to will it to be because otherwise we're going to have deep societal upheavals that I think many in our elite are just really ignoring.
Yeah, they are. That's why I'm mentioning it. But what does that look like? Will it to be? I need to understand what that means.
Well, I don't want to take up all the time. I'm happy to talk about this all day. We have one of the top corporate leaders.
Can I just add something? Yeah. Add something, Alex, on the workforce. If you look at the workforce in healthcare, the downward pressure on staffing of nurses and people in the healthcare industry, we're underserved. We do not have enough workers in this space. When we talk about efficiency and productivity, leveraging this partnership to improve that, we are enabling that workforce that is significantly under pressure today. So I would put that in a different context than healthcare.
Finally, you know, Alex, the stock, I mean, I mentioned it at the top, 76% this year, on top of last year's 340% gain. You have a lot of believers. But it's now valued at 205 times next year, 12-month earnings. The S&P is 22 times. Do you feel the pressure to deliver on those high expectations?
I feel the pressure every day to deliver on high expectations right here. That's the high expectation I feel the pressure to deliver on. I feel the higher expectation to deliver for our retail investors especially that, you know, defended us against the so-called experts that are defending us now against the so-called non-expert who are pretending to be experts. I feel the high expectations of the 4,000 Palantirians who are among, if not the most talented people in the world, the ex-Palantirians who are building some of the most interesting companies in the world, the high expectations of getting our government to actually be the most efficient, ethical, non-transactional, non-surveillance, but still able to do its core function governments. I feel the expectation of scaring the F out of our enemies, and I feel the expectation of doing my thing. And that's what we're focused on. And you know what? Don't like the price. It's one of the beautiful things about being in the public markets. We're a private company for, you know, most vast majority of our history. You don't like the price? Exit. You do like the price? Buy. I'm focused on the high expectations of a very, very high competence-driven person like the person next to me and many others, and especially, quite frankly, of the war fighter who's out there protecting us. You know, when they go out and they risk their lives, in many cases, not all, but almost all, they're risking their life with Palantir at their back and in front of them. That's a really high expectation, and that's what I'm focused on. And that's why I defend Palantir against largely player-hating, technically ignorant people who wish they could get out of the vacuum of their pagan religion and understand how companies are built, how tech works, and produce products that can't be disseminated in 90 seconds.
So many pagans. Alex Karp, thank you so much for the time. Always colorful.
Thank you.
Alex Karp, Palantir CEO, with Chris Johnson, Teletracking co-CEO, who just announced a big deal today with Palantir. I think dispelling some of the concerns out there around the data collection. Certainly had a lot to say about the New York Times, but also about the growth in the commercial business, what they're doing for their customers and for the U.S. government as well.